Discover how one incredible black woman exposed a 5B deal after facing sneers from a billionaire. Aaliyah Johnson stared out at the bustling streets of Chicago's South Side, her heart heavy with purpose. The little bookstore her grandmother had left her wasn't just a place to buy books, it was a lifeline for the community. The smell of old pages and fresh coffee filled the air as she made her morning rounds, dusting the shelves and greeting regulars with a warm smile. Each book represented a world of possibilities, and she poured her soul into ensuring that everyone felt welcome. But today, an unfamiliar dread crawled under her skin like a cold shadow, whispering of looming threats. That morning, news hit like a thunderclap. Whispers danced through the aisles, echoing the name Tom Redding, a billionaire with eyes set on transforming Aaliyah's neighborhood into a playground for the wealthy, pushing aside the small businesses like hers. As she stood behind the counter, tears hung in her eyes. Her grandmother's legacy and her own future was at stake. Gentrification felt like a knife twisting in her gut, and the weight of her family's history crushed her beneath its burden. Feeling the walls closing in, Aaliyah locked the doors that evening, knowing the struggle ahead wouldn't just be hers alone. The community had to unite, and as if by instinct, she sent out an invitation to neighbors, urging them to gather in her sanctuary of books. With her heart pounding and uncertainty written all over her face, she waited for familiar faces to arrive, each one representing a thread in the fabric of their collective fight. Despite the growing sense of urgency, Aaliyah's spirits wavered when Malik, her estranged brother, stepped into the room with a cockiness that made her chest tighten. He spoke with fire, ambition to align with Redding for a better life, a life she couldn't understand. "You don't get it, Aaliyah," he said, brushing off her fears like dust. "This is opportunity knocking." Every word pierced her, sending waves of grief through their rocky relationship. As the crowd settled, voices blended into a passionate hum. Aaliyah felt the collective heartbeat of her community, a fierce determination ignited within her, yet doubts gnawed at her, too. Days turned into sleepless nights in the bookstore, buried under faded posters and childhood memories, until she stumbled upon documents full of whispers of corruption tied to Redding's $5 billion project. Her heart raced with possibility. This was her chance to rally her community, to not just preserve her grandmother's legacy but to push back against corruption. She whispered promises to the ghost of her grandmother that justice would be served, that hope might rise from the ashes of despair. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As City Hall loomed before her, the tension in Aaliyah's chest tightened. The room was packed, a sea of faces staring, some hopeful, some fearful. Redding sat smugly in front, a man unbothered by lives, all too aware of the devastation he carried in his wake. Aaliyah gripped the papers tightly, her voice quivering at first. But as she began to speak, something inside her awakened. Each accusation rolled off her tongue, enveloped by the weight of her neighbor's eyes. Then, in the middle of her speech, chaos erupted, a horrifying twist that shattered her confidence. The palpable tension threatened to swallow her as she fought to stay grounded, aware of the stakes rising above her with each word spoken. Could she truly rally her community? Would they stand with her? Even if the world seemed determined to crush their dreams? In that moment of despair and determination, she knew the fight had just begun. Aaliyah's heart raced as she saw a commotion by the entrance. A group of city officials, led by a tense-looking red-haired woman, stepped forward to quiet the crowd. Her mind buzzed with anxiety, the sound of murmurs growing louder in the crowded room. It felt like the walls were closing in, a reminder of the very real danger that loomed over her community. "Ladies and gentlemen," the woman began, her voice firm but strained, "we need to step outside for a moment. We can't have this meeting take place in chaos." Aaliyah's pulse quickened at those words. Chaos was the last thing she wanted, but wasn't it already there? simmering beneath the surface. Malik's voice cut through the noise. You can't silence us. This is our home. His passionate words sent a wave of energy through the crowd. Aaliyah felt a spark of hope ignite within her, then quickly followed by dread. What would happen if the officials refused to listen? As voices rose around her, Aaliyah seized the moment. Listen! She shouted, her voice breaking through the din. We have documents. Proof of what Reading is trying to do to our community. This isn't just about business, this is about lives. Her heart hammered in her chest. Would they take her seriously? Several people turned their heads, curiosity replacing anger. That was her chance. She stepped forward, holding the papers high in the air. I've got proof. This project isn't just a redevelopment, it's a scheme to erase our history and exploit our neighborhood for profit. We can't let them. Suddenly, the red-haired official stepped closer, her expression a mixture of annoyance and concern. Miss Johnson, I understand your feelings and concerns, but we can't conduct this meeting here. Why not? Aaliyah demanded, feeling the weight of her ancestors' hopes push her forward. Are you afraid of the truth? Behind her, people began to rally, murmurs of solidarity growing louder, voices ready to back her up. Aaliyah's heart swelled with pride and urgency. This was it. They could stand together, but then, without warning, a loud crash echoed through the room. A young woman stumbled back, clutching a pamphlet that had been tossed from the crowd. The sight of that simple piece of paper, a message about the upcoming community meeting against Reading's project, seemed to set off a riot of emotion. Fingers pointed, accusations flared, the tension spilled over into a chaotic mix of fear and anger. Friends turned to enemies, concern turned to chaos. We're being ignored. Someone shouted. Fight back. Stand up. Aaliyah felt her stomach twist. She couldn't lose this moment, it felt like a lifeline tossed into turbulent waters. No. This isn't what we want. She shouted, desperate to rally them back to purpose. We have to be united. This is our stand. Her voice seemed to resonate with some, who paused to take a breath, re-evaluating their responses. She could feel the tide shifting slightly, the flicker of hope igniting amidst the storm. Just as she breathed a sigh of relief, a short, powerful figure pushed through the crowd. It was her grandmother's old friend, Miss Vera, with fire in her eyes. Aaliyah, gather your papers. We need to make this move. Call a press conference, show them your evidence. The mention of the press sent shockwaves through the crowd. A buzz of excitement replaced the chaos. Aaliyah blinked, her mind racing. Could this really work? Would the press amplify their voices rather than drown them out? Who's with me? Aaliyah shouted, her heart pounding as she scanned the room. Let us show the world what they're trying to take from us. But in the back of her mind, doubt lingered. Could they really take on a billionaire? As she locked eyes with Malik, a pang of uncertainty washed over her. Would he support her, or was he still swayed by the allure of wealth and deals? There was no turning back. This fight was not just for her, it was for the community, for her grandmother, and for the future. But as uncertainty crept in again, Aaliyah shivered at the thought that she was only beginning to realize the true scope of this battle. What if she couldn't hold her family or her community together? What if, in her quest for justice, she ended up losing everything? The crowd seemed to pulse with energy as Aaliyah stood at the front, her heart racing, her breath shallow. The weight of the moment pressed down on her shoulders, but deep within the chaos, a flicker of fire stirred. We have to act now. She called out again, the determination in her voice strong enough to cut through the tension. Malik stepped beside her, nodding vigorously. Aaliyah's right. We can't let them silence us or sideline our voices. This is our home. His words rallied a small group behind them, and she felt that flicker of hope grow stronger. The collective spirit of the community surged back to life, a powerful reminder of why they were here. Miss Vera waved a hand, demanding their attention. Listen up. We stand together or we fall apart. It's time to fight, and that starts with spreading the truth, not just in this room but across the city. Aaliyah felt the crowd shift, a wave of agreement washing over them. That's right. We can't let them push us around like this. This isn't just about saving our neighborhood, it's about preserving who we are. Aaliyah took a deep breath. She had to prioritize her message. Tomorrow, she started, then paused to make sure everyone was locked in on her. Tomorrow, we gather at the community center. We'll show the world what's happening here. We'll call the press, invite everyone to listen. Excited murmurs filled the room, faces lighting up. Aaliyah's heart soared. We'll create awareness, we'll let people know our side. She gestured to the papers still in her clenched fist. These documents lay everything out. They show how this project will displace us, our history, our homes. We can take this to the media. An older man with a weathered face stepped forward. What if they don't care? They'll spin the story their way. How can we trust the press? Doubt threaded through his question, and Aaliyah felt the unease settle back into the crowd. She took a moment, scanning the faces in front of her. Because this fight isn't just about us. It's about a struggle for justice. If we, the people, stand together and shout out loud enough, they have to listen. I'm in. Someone from the back shouted. Let's get those flyers ready. We need to show Reading we're not backing down. Aaliyah felt electricity hum through the room. Voices rose as more hands shot up, pledging their participation, their support. The energy was contagious, the purpose palpable. This was their chance to change the narrative, and it wrapped around her like a warm embrace. As plans began to form, Aaliyah's thoughts drifted to her grandmother. She could almost hear her voice echoing through her mind, filled with wisdom and resilience. You are strong, Aaliyah. Don't ever let them make you feel small. But beneath that newfound confidence, uncertainty still clawed at her. What if they faced retaliation? What would happen if Reading's people came after them? Then again, what was the alternative? Silence, submission? Absolutely not. Aaliyah, focus. Malik's voice broke through her thoughts. He grabbed her arm gently, grounding her. This is it. It's time for us to take a stand. Are you ready? She locked eyes with him, the fire in her heart igniting again. I am. And we're going to do this together. We can change things. We can show them what courage looks like. The fervor of the crowd was rising, but a feeling of dread still lurked at the edges of Aaliyah's mind. As enthusiasm surged, so did the weight of the consequences they might face. Would their community stick together when push came to shove? Tomorrow would come fast. But Aaliyah knew one thing for sure. The time for action was now. But as the crowd began to disperse, a thought unsettled her: who would be standing with her when the truth finally confronted the powerful forces at play? Aaliyah hardly slept that night. The adrenaline from the meeting still coursed through her, but it was tangled up with worry. She rolled over in her bed, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with her thoughts. Each time her eyes closed, images of the crowd, the excitement, and the truth she was ready to proclaim flickered before her. But they were soon overshadowed by nightmares of betrayal and silence. Morning light broke through her window, illuminating the small room. It felt strangely peaceful, almost mocking the storm she felt brewing inside. Despite her reservations, she pushed herself up and dressed. Today was the day she'd either make a difference or face the unknown. At the community center, the buzz of voices greeted her. She took a moment to absorb the scene, the colorful banners sitting ready for the day ahead, people gathering, shaking hands, exchanging determined looks. Aaliyah felt a squeeze of hope gripping her heart. This was not just her fight, it belonged to everyone. Malik caught her eye and approached, a stack of flyers in his hands. We're ready. Just waiting on a few more folks. You okay? Yeah, just a little nervous, she admitted, fiddling with her hair. What if they don't show? What if nobody cares? They will, he reassured, placing a hand on her shoulder. We're not just neighbors anymore. We're a movement. As the room began to fill, she could see the faces of people she had grown up with, the friends and families she held dear. They believed in her. They believed in this fight. She took a deep breath, and as she watched the crowd, her confidence swelled. Then came Miss Vera, her presence commanding the room as she was known to do. All right, everyone, can I have your attention? The chatter faded, anticipation hung heavy in the air. Today, we teach them what community looks like. Today, we show them we want to be silenced. Aaliyah felt the resonance of her words. That fire deep within her ignited again. They would send a strong message powerful enough to resonate beyond the four walls of the center. An hour later, they filed out into the street, a vibrant sea of colors and voices. Aaliyah led the way, her heart thundering in her chest. Hand-drawn signs waved in the air, each one telling their stories. She could feel the energy, the fight that lay in each person's heart. They began chanting together, their voices swelling until they harmonized into a rhythm that reverberated through the community. Aaliyah found her own voice rising with the tide, feeling it curl and weave through the air like a promise. The press arrived on the scene, cameras zooming in. But back in the crowd, Aaliyah spotted a figure that sent an icicle of dread straight through her. A man in a sharp suit, a smile plastered on his face but cold as ice. It was Redding's right-hand man. The proof that they were being watched, that the powerful were aware of them and that they might strike back. Her heart raced. Would they retaliate? Would this moment end in the very violence she feared? Whatever doubt she had felt before hummed back in full force, but she stood taller, pushing through the fear with the collective resolve of her community behind her. The crowd overturned any trepidation with their energy, pushing Aaliyah front and center as they held their signs high. Together, they chanted louder. Yet, in the back of her mind, a nagging question lingered: would they truly be heard, or would this moment become yet another forgotten protest drowned out by the noise of indifference? As the cameras flashed and conflict loomed in the air, Aaliyah took a deep breath. This was it. Time to take control. What she didn't expect, though, was for the day to unfold like a storm, revealing secrets and truths that would change everything. Aaliyah could feel the energy surging around her, but as she stepped deeper into the crowd, her focus kept drifting back to that man in the suit. He stood there, arms crossed, observing everything with a gaze that sliced through the vibrancy of their demonstration. It was a reminder that powerful forces were watching, ready to strike when least expected. With each chant rising from the crowd, her resolve hardened. This moment was a declaration, not just for herself, but for everyone fighting against the injustices that seemed so entrenched. Aaliyah raised her sign higher, her heart racing as she caught Malik's eye again. They exchanged a nod that felt like electricity, a promise that they were in this together. Miss Vera moved through the mass of people, encouraging everyone as she passed. Remember why we're here. This is for our families, our children. We're not just numbers, we're lives. Her voice rang out, filling Aaliyah with an even greater sense of purpose. Suddenly, laughter erupted nearby, slicing through the chanting. A group of onlookers had gathered across the street. Aaliyah's stomach twisted. She caught sight of some people laughing derisively, sneering at their cause. Dread washed over her, but Malik stepped in close. Ignore them, he whispered fiercely. They're scared. Scared of us coming together. But Aaliyah couldn't shake off the feeling that they were up against much more than just scoffing onlookers. The weight of the suit man's presence settled on her like a heavy fog. As the chant crescendoed, she felt an unusual weight at her back, something tugging at the edges of her consciousness. Aaliyah turned and saw a figure breaking through the crowd. It was Anna, her childhood friend. Aaliyah's heart sank at the worried look on her face. Aaliyah. Anna called out, breathless. I heard what happened last night. Are you okay? They're saying they're planning to fight back, but she hesitated, glancing nervously at the man in the suit. I know, Aaliyah replied, trying to keep her voice steady. But we're not backing down. This is our moment. Anna hesitated, biting her lip. But what if it gets dangerous? I can't lose you like we lost my brother. The mention of her brother stung someone lost to the forces they were now openly fighting against. Aaliyah reached out and squeezed Anna's hand. Don't think like that. We're rallying for them, for all of us. We have to be brave, no matter what. The tension in the air felt palpable, almost crackling. Suddenly, the sound of a megaphone cut through the crowd. This is your chance to disperse, a voice boomed. We won't tolerate disruptions. Move along peacefully. Aaliyah's heart sank, the threat hanging heavy in the air, but something inside her ignited. They're afraid of us, she exclaimed, her voice lifting above the chaos. They want us to back down, but we can't. Look around. We are not alone. The crowd took up her words, their energy igniting again with chants that resonated off the buildings. We are not alone. We are not alone. But just as the chants reached a fever pitch, the man in the suit stepped forward. Enough of this. He shouted, the icy calmness sending chills through Aaliyah's core. Aaliyah took a step forward instinctively, her heart racing. We will not be silenced. She countered, though doubt threatened to crack her resolve. Then, the unexpected happened. A loud crash echoed from nearby, followed by chaos as tension snapped like a frayed wire. It was in that moment Aaliyah realized this wasn't just about her or her community anymore. It was about something larger, something fundamental. The stakes had been raised, but how high would they go? She felt a surge of both fear and defiance rising within her. Suddenly, everything changed in the midst of the chaos. She caught a glimpse of a hidden truth in the suit man's eyes. Maybe today they would uncover something even greater than they all imagined. What would this confrontation ultimately reveal? Would Aaliyah and her community uncover the secrets behind Redding's empire, or would their fight unravel in a tide of hostility? Aaliyah's pulse quickened as the noise of the crowd faded into a distant hum. The crash reverberated through her bones, sending a tremor of fear down her spine. People surged forward, a wave of bodies pushing and pulling in a frenzied dance of anxiety and determination. Shadows flickered in the chaos, and she sought out Malik, who remained steadfast near the front, his eyes scanning the street. Stay together. Don't let them divide us. He shouted, his voice cutting through the dissonance. Aaliyah nodded, but her gaze snapped back to the man in the suit, now advancing. He moved with calculated precision, glancing around as if assessing the vulnerability of the crowd. There was something in his posture that spoke not of authority, but of a crumbling facade. Aaliyah felt that flicker of defiance build within her again. Suddenly, Anna's grip tightened, grounding her in place. What are they going to do? She whispered, fear lacing her words. I don't know, Aaliyah replied, but we have to stand. We can't let them take our voices. Are you sure? Anna's voice trembled like a leaf in the wind. Absolutely, Aaliyah said firmly, even as doubt slipped through her mind. We're fighting for everyone. The words barely left her lips before chaos erupted again. The suit man raised his megaphone, this time blasting an order that shattered the tension like glass. Disperse. You don't know what you're getting into. That was it. Aaliyah felt her heart lurch. Fragments of her life flashed before her, her brother's face, her mother's tears, and the anger that fueled this moment. She made a choice. No. We're not leaving until we're heard. The words hung in the air, a spark igniting within the crowd. Faces lit with resolve, her statement echoing against the buildings, creating pockets of solidarity. But then, from somewhere in the back, a resonant cry emerged. A child in a bright blue coat clutched his father's hand, eyes wide with confusion. Daddy, why are they mad? The innocence of the question cut through the hot air. Because they're fighting for us, son, the father replied, steadfast yet shaky. Tears prickled in Aaliyah's eyes, but steely determination shrouded her heart. The power of what they were doing washed over her. Together. She yelled, rousing the multitude again, her voice rising above the crowd. Our voices matter. The chants rebuilt, stronger than before, reverberating with unity. Our voices matter. Our voices matter. But then the unexpected happened once more. The suit man signaled sharply, and a reach from behind him yielded a line of officers, clad in riot gear. The sight sent shockwaves through Aaliyah, an army designed to silence them. Her breath hitched. What are they going to do? Anna gasped beside her, and Aaliyah could feel the warmth of her friend's panic radiating in the air. They're afraid. Aaliyah yelled, mustering courage. They'll see that we won't back down. Yet, with each passing second, the distance narrowed between them and the line of officers. Suddenly, everything shifted again. One officer stepped forward, and as he raised his baton, a tense silence fell over the crowd. It felt impossibly heavy. Aaliyah's heart raced in her chest, her mind grappling with the danger looming. Would this be the moment they all had to pay a price for standing tall? The crowd held its collective breath. In that suspended moment, Aaliyah searched for strength in the eyes around her, willing them to hold fast, ready to stand against this looming threat. The moment shimmered with potential. Would they rise as one, or would fear fracture their resolve? As tension gripped the air like a vice, Aaliyah wondered what could give them the strength to fight back. What truth lay hidden behind that suit? The officer's baton hovered, glinting ominously under the harsh streetlights. Aaliyah's breath caught. Around her, the crowd stiffened, eyes wide, hearts racing. The hum of anticipation mixing fear with hope hung heavy in the air. Together. She shouted again, but this time, it felt like an echo of her own fear. She looked at Anna, who stood beside her, palms sweaty and trembling. Are we ready for this? Anna's voice was muffled, but the tremor was unmistakable. More than ever. Aaliyah had to believe that. She glanced around, noticing the faces painted with varying shades of determination and fright. She caught Malik's gaze. He nodded, a silent promise of solidarity. Then, something caught her attention. A tall woman in the front line, her hair a halo of curls, stepped forward. We are not going anywhere. The woman's voice cut through the din, powerful and unwavering. The crowd paused, her confidence a beacon. Who are we? She roared. People. Came the response, laced with fervor. What do we want? To be heard. With that rhythm, the crowd shifted, a collective entity. Aaliyah felt the bond cementing around them, each voice fusing into a singular force. She raised her own voice, willfully shaking off doubts. One chant led to another, weaving through the night. Together. Together. As their voices climbed in intensity, the officers shifted, their line faltering. Aaliyah dared to hope. But the suit man had other plans. He barked orders, frustration spilling from his lips. Contain the crowd. Now. It was as if a dam had broken. The uniformed officers surged forward, shields raised. Aaliyah's heart plummeted. Get ready. Malik shouted, his urgency slicing through her momentary freeze. Stand your ground. Aaliyah called, instinctively moving forward, leading by example. It was a gamble, the kind that could either solidify their resolve or break them entirely. Just as the first officer advanced, the crowd reacted. Feet didn't shuffle back. Bodies didn't scatter. They pushed against their fear as if it were another barrier, solid and unyielding. We won't back down. Aaliyah screamed, the truth soaring from her chest. In that pulse of energy, she wasn't just another face in the crowd, she was a voice, a heartbeat of a movement striving toward justice. The officers hesitated, glancing at each other. That moment of hesitation, that flicker of doubt, only fueled the passionate cries from the people. Aaliyah caught a glimpse of a little hand reaching up from the mass, a girl, no older than 6, grasping her father's leg. Her wide eyes shimmered with both fear and the spark of courage radiating from the crowd. That innocent gaze filled Aaliyah with fierce determination. Look at us. We're not afraid. Aaliyah yelled, feeding off the collective energy, wanting to hold that child's hope. "We're here, and we matter." The crowd echoed back, "We matter." And that chant transformed. It turned into something more than just a battle cry, it morphed into a mantra, a pledge. Then, without warning, a flash of camera, caught in the fray. Reporters surged, scrambling to capture the moment unfolding before them. Aaliyah's heart raced. This could be the spark. They could reach millions. And there it was, the suit man faltering once again, caught off guard by the unwavering unity of spirit surrounding him. The sound of uncertain shuffling came from the officers behind him. What if they could turn the tide? What if this was just the beginning? As questions filled her mind, Aaliyah's courage surged. The world was watching now. Would they stand together long enough to make their voices truly heard? It was now or never, but would they hold on as things escalated? The air thrummed with energy, a volatile mix of fear and defiance. Transitioning from uncertain whispers to a cacophony of determined screams, the crowd pressed closer, their bodies merging into one. Aaliyah felt at the pulse of their stubborn hope. It thrived, a living, breathing entity, all out in the open for anyone watching to see. "Stand your ground." She shouted again, but it was more than just words. It was a lifeline, a command that reverberated through her and wrapped around the others like a warm blanket. They needed to feel the strength it poured into her, but just then, the line of officers solidified, shields glimmering menacingly in the harsh lights. The officer at the front raised his baton high, his eyes narrowed, zeroing in on Aaliyah. She swallowed hard, the fear gripping her throat. What if this was a mistake? "Do not let them intimidate you." Malik shouted, his voice cutting through her thoughts like a knife. He stepped closer, a warrior spirit igniting the crowd behind him. Aaliyah glanced back, and the little girl was still there, clinging to her father with those big, trusting eyes. At that moment, Aaliyah made a promise not just to herself but to everyone standing with her: she would not let that child down. Aaliyah's heart raced, fear giving way to resolve as she looked up. "We want to be silenced. We demand to be heard." The cries of the crowd morphed into an anthem. "We demand to be heard." The words echoed off buildings, amplifying the defiance surging within. In the midst of the chaos, where fear and anger wrestled for control, Aaliyah suddenly felt a bolt of clarity. This was about their voices, their stories, a shared humanity that connected them all. But could they hold on to that unity? From behind the police line, she could hear the suit man barking into his radio, his frustration palpable. Officers shuffled, uncertain, their solidarity beginning to crack. Aaliyah caught the tense glances among them. She took a step forward, feeling more like a leader now, embodying the spirit of everything they were fighting for. "Your fear only holds power if we let it. We are stronger together." Suddenly, a piercing sound ripped through the air, a shot fired, though it was a blank. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Panic rippled like a wave. Aaliyah felt her heartbeat quicken. "Don't let fear in. Stand firm." She called out, but doubt crept in. What was happening now? This felt dangerously close to crossing a line. The crowd, sensing her wavering, responded as one, tightening their stance and chanting, "We're not afraid. We're not afraid." Aaliyah saw determination etched on their faces. They were not going to give up. But just then, through the crowd, chaos erupted. Another shot, this time real, rang out. She felt the heat of it seep through the air, a thunderclap that shook her to the core. A panicked shout followed. "Back, everyone! Get down!" Aaliyah dropped low. Her heart raced, awe crashing into terror anew. The little girl was still clutching her father, now crouched protectively over her. Aaliyah's mind struggled to grasp it. All this was no longer just a protest. As reality gripped her tight, she understood the choice they all faced. Would they risk it all, standing boldly against that fierce wall of fear? Or would they shatter under the pressure? And then, just as hope flickered like a candle in the wind, Aaliyah remembered the camera, the reaching eyes of the world watching. They had to keep going. They had to show everyone what bravery looked like. Amidst the chaos, the direction of this moment could change everything. But would their determination hold under fire? With that question echoing in her mind, Aaliyah caught Anna's determined gaze across the rapidly darkening scene. Would they find their courage, or would this night twist into something they couldn't predict? Aaliyah's breath caught in her throat as she peered across the sea of anxious faces. The chaos around her felt like flames licking at the edges of her resolve. The officers were starting to push forward, rigid and menacing, and an avalanche of anger surged within Aaliyah. This was no longer just about them. A single spark could ignite the powder keg of emotion in the crowd. Back away. An officer barked, his voice harsh as it sliced through the crowd's chants. The line began to shift and press, like a wave crashing against a rocky shore. Aaliyah clenched her fists, the adrenaline coursing through her veins like wildfire. "Stay together!" she yelled, her voice rising above the clamor. Excited murmurs followed her call, with people shifting closer to one another, a human wall of solidarity. It was a tightly knit community that was slowly forming, she could feel it. But then, a cry echoed through the air, piercing her heart. "Help! My daughter!" Aaliyah turned and spots a woman, wild-eyed with fear, searching for her lost child. The sight dug deep into Aaliyah, twisting and tightening her chest. The little girl, the same one who had clung to her father just moments ago, had disappeared from view. With a mix of panic and purpose, Aaliyah stepped away from the crowd. "I'll get her. Stay here," she called back. Pushing her way through the crowd, she could hear her heart beat loudly in her ears. Each step felt like an eternity as she scanned the throng of bodies. "Please, please," she murmured under her breath as she darted ahead, looking for signs of the girl, her heart a drum echoing against the rising tide of chaos. These moments felt like an hour, but with each passing second, the restless energy around her grew thicker. Then she spotted a flash of pink, a small dress wriggling through the oblivion. Kneeling down, Aaliyah reached out. "Hey! Sweetie! Come here!" The little girl turned, a smile bursting through the fear on her face. "I was looking for you," she cried, misplacing the terror of the moment for a childlike grin that lit her features. Relief washed over Aaliyah as she scooped the girl into her arms, holding her tight. She could feel her small heartbeat against her cheek, a steady rhythm of safety amid chaos. "What's your name?" Aaliyah whispered. "Bella." The girl beamed, her innocence a comforting fire in an increasingly darkening world. Just then, a loud crack echoed through the air, triggering more screams and pushing Aaliyah to her feet. Surrounding officers tightened their hold, but she couldn't just run back and leave the little girl. Where was her father? "Stay with me, Bella," Aaliyah instructed, glancing around desperately. She spotted the father in the crowd, frantically shouting his daughter's name. "Over here!" Aaliyah shouted, waving her arm as she moved through the mass of people, heading toward him. At that moment, the tension seemed to swell. Officers raised shields and batons, their forms a menacing shadow against the lights. It was clear that the situation was spiraling. Aaliyah felt the weight of her promise pressing down. They couldn't backtrack. She could sense the crowd's fear, but also an unwavering resolve. They were fighting for visibility, for recognition, for everything. "Stay close, Bella," she reiterated, gripping the girl's hand tightly. As they drew nearer to the father, Aaliyah caught a glimpse of Malik giving instructions at the front, his calmness amidst the turbulence a stark contrast. Then she felt it. The wind shifted, the weight of uncertainty thickening, almost choking all hope in its path. Would they find a way to push back against the rising tide of violence? Aaliyah's heart raced with a mix of fear and fierce anticipation. Each moment felt crucial. Could they navigate this chaos as a community? She turned back to the father who had finally reached them, relief flooding his expression. But Aaliyah could sense the collective anxiety rising in the crowd. A storm was brewing, one that threatened to spill over. And just like that, everything felt poised at the edge of a precipice, ready to tip in one direction or another. Would they embrace the strength of each other and thrive? Or would this night see courage shatter under the tumult? The real battle waited just ahead. As Aaliyah stood trembling with Bella's hand gripping hers, she felt the hard truth it all rested on them, and choices ahead would define their night. Would they claim their fight to be heard? The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm, golden hue over the community center parking lot. The moment had arrived, and Aaliyah's heart pounded with an intensity that echoed across the sea of faces around her. The previous chaos had quieted, but the air brimmed with adrenaline. She could see Malik standing strong in the crowd, eyes steady, and a fire ignited within her from that familiar warmth. Together, she shouted, her voice ringing clear. The crowd responded in unison, a wave of energy surging through them, together. Aaliyah squeezed Bella's hand, anchoring herself with the innocent strength radiating from the child. "We are fighting for you, Bella," she assured, catching a glimpse of the little girl's bright-eyed determination, but as the officers tightened their line, the suit man loomed closer, gnashing at the cracks forming in the solidarity of fear and defiance. "You think you can win just because you shout louder?" he sneered. Aaliyah felt a rush of anger bubble up, but instead of being overwhelmed, it transformed into determination. "This isn't just noise. It's a movement." She threw back, her voice carrying over the crowd, unapologetic and proud. With that, a fierce chant erupted, shaking the very foundations of the pavement they stood on. "We will not be silenced." In that moment, something else stirred in Aaliyah's heart. Courage wasn't just a reaction, it bubbled from deep within, a heartbeat shared among the throng of her neighbors. She locked eyes with Malik once more, and the connection was electric solidarity as real as blood. Then, unexpectedly, a voice broke through the noise. It was Miss Vera, her presence both calming and galvanizing. "Look around you, everyone. Understand the power we hold. The numbers gathered here today carry histories and futures intertwined. We will stand our ground." Her words washed over Aaliyah, igniting the embers of hope as the crowd surged with renewed purpose. "Together." Aaliyah echoed. Her heart swelled further as she saw the breadth of their togetherness. Old faces, new faces, they all stood as one. "Let us show them our strength, our unity." Miss Vera continued, and with that, a roar erupted through the crowd, its sound amplifying in waves. "For our ancestors. For our children." Aaliyah felt renewed resolve coursing through her veins. Turning to Bella, she knelt to meet the child's gaze. "Remember this moment. We're here to be heard." Tears of determination welled in Aaliyah's eyes, yet there was joy mingling throughout her heart. She wasn't alone anymore, they were a group full of power, full of love. As officers advanced, their dark silhouettes forged a tangled mess of fear. "Back down!" they yelled, but Aaliyah lifted her chin higher. "We refuse to back down." Her voice vibrated through the crowd, rising and blending, turning into a collective roar of humanity. "Push onwards!" Aaliyah called, and hands linked tighter across people's sides a joined front securing their resolve against hostility. Suddenly, something incredible happened. The cameras capturing the demonstration began to flash intermittently, their lenses trained on Aaliyah, Malik, and all those standing alongside them. For a brief moment amidst the tumult, she realized the camera wasn't just a gadget, it was a lifeline. It represented the vast reach of their truth, echoing their message out to the world. In that instant, the suit man faltered. His confident sneer slipped, revealing an unsureness that coursed through him like ice water, fraying the grip he had over the situation. "They're just a bunch of voices," he muttered at first, but Aaliyah's spirit rang louder. She recognized it as vulnerability, the cracks of which revealed more than just fear, they hinted at doubt. "We are more than just voices," she cried out, a sense of vision washing over her. "We're a community, a quilt sewn from our stories. You can't erase us. We demand to stay." Without warning, Aaliyah felt Malik's reassuring grip on her shoulder, grounding her amidst the uncertainty. The air shimmered, filled with anticipation, the culmination of years of struggle. At last surfacing in a resounding chorus that reverberated from their collective hearts. Together. She shouted one last time, the word anchoring like a flame as every person echoed back. Uncertainty transformed into certainty as they all shifted forward with her, united. As they pressed onward, the officers hesitated just a fraction of a moment, a wavering in their lines, and in that pause, Aaliyah saw it. Victory wasn't just possible, it was inevitable, birthed from the unified heartbeat of her people standing tall. The true battle had begun, and fear began to back away, replaced by collective empowerment. Behind them, the bright lights of cameras flickered, capturing the moment when countless voices transformed into one powerful shout for justice, one unwavering promise for respect. This fight lit pathways for the future, like stars igniting across a dark sky, illuminating not just their community but beyond. As they marched together, Aaliyah realized she wasn't just fighting for her legacy anymore, but for every single soul connected by the vibrant fabric of their shared journey. Aaliyah stood tall as the storm within intensified. She was ready to face whatever would come next, hand in hand with those who chose to stand beside her. Together, they would shape a tomorrow brighter than the darkness they faced today. This is how transformations happen. One small step at a time, born from unity and the courage to be heard. Families gathered closer, hearts intertwined. Aaliyah felt the pulse of change, real and potent. And somewhere in the midst of it all, she could almost hear her grandmother's voice, unwavering and full of hope. Then everything exploded. This was their moment of triumph, their call to action. All together, each chant resonated as a heartbeat in the shared journey that had barely begun. And with that heartbeat echoing sunlight against the horizon, Aaliyah knew one thing: they would not back down. If you felt the power of this story, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for more incredible transformations like Aaliyah's. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover this journey. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending. Your voice matters to us. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video instantaneously with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Let us keep spreading the message of hope and unity together.